Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about weights in Selenium. First of all, let us understand why do we need weights. So the load time of elements on a web page may vary. In applications developed using Ajax, JavaScript, objects on the web page may load at different times. For example, user instructs WebDriver to navigate to a web page, tries to find an element and gets a no such element error. So this is because not all the elements on the web page load at the same time. So in such cases, we should be using Selenium Waits. We have three different types of weights in Selenium. We'll see them one by one. So the first one is implicit wait. Implicit wait is used to tell WebDriver to poll the DOM, that is document object model, for a certain amount of time when trying to find an element. So when we try to find an element on the DOM, so we have a certain amount of time, a maximum timeout. So that we can specify to the WebDriver, and within that time, if the element is found, then actually it returns true or it returns the element. Or if the time is expired, the timeout is expired, then we get an error that the element is not found and it is timeout. So this is what we use implicit wait for. And the default wait time is 0, meaning like no implicit wait. We don't write, if we don't write wait, so that is equivalent to the wait time of 0. And the scope of implicit wait is set for the complete session of the WebDriver instance. Here is the syntax of the implicit wait. You can see the driver.manage.timeouts.implicitly wait, and we specify the wait time as a parameter. Driver here represents the WebDriver object. Now let us understand with an example. I will navigate to a website. You can see I navigated to some URL, and I wanted to, select this text. You see selected dates and you see some text, right? No selected dates to display. I wanted to, select that text by ID. I'll be using by ID, and we'll use tag and ID. We'll use CSS selector for this. So this is what we wanted to do now. You can see I have created a class Selenium Waits, a main method in it, and I have actually written the Chrome driver binary has been set here. A WebDriver object is created and is instantiated to the Chrome driver. So this launches the Chrome browser, and we are maximizing the Chrome browser window. All right. Now, what we wanted to do, we wanted to navigate to this. Sorry, not this. This is the CSS selector, CSS select locator. So we wanted to navigate to this location. We'll navigate to this URL first, and then we'll find the element where we wanted to read the text from, right? By dot, I'll be using CSS selector. We'll be using tag and ID. So let's go back. So span is the tag and ID is whatever I have been selected here. So span ash, this is the ID. All right. So we wanted to locate this element. All right, we located, but we wanted to read the text out of it, right? So what we'll do is we'll store this into some web element. This is selected date. Just import this web element class from Selenium package. And then we'll just output this. This is the selected date, right? So selected date is, this is the web element. And how do we get text out of it is get text is the method we'll use. Dot, we'll trim the spaces. So what did we do? We just navigated to this URL, and then we are just reading some text on that web page, right? Displaying on the console. Let's execute this. we didn't add any weights, right? So we didn't use any implicit wait, or we didn't add any weights here till now, right? So just let's see till here. It should navigate to that URL and it should read the text which is displayed here, right? Yes, we can see the text displayed here. All right. Now what we'll do is we'll actually add the implicit wait command here. So when do we actually use this implicit wait is once we launch the browser, or once we instantiate the WebDriver object. So how do we actually use the implicit wait? The syntax of it is WebDriver object dot manage dot timeouts dot implicit wait, and this will be applicable for the complete life of the WebDriver instance. Implicit wait, and earlier how we are used to do is we used to actually write the time unit in till before Selenium 4. Now we should be using duration dot of seconds is the method, and we can specify the maximum timeout for which the WebDriver has to wait till the web element on the web page is found, right? So I'm giving the timeout period as 10 here, 10 seconds. So this is the syntax we need to use, and this is how we need to use the implicit wait. So this will be applicable for all the web pages we visit using this driver object, WebDriver object instance, right? Now let me execute this again. Okay, done. So you can see it here, right? It actually read the text what we wanted to read. Fine. Now, if you observe, you don't see any difference, right? Earlier and after adding the implicit wait. So this is because the element which we wanted to read on the web page is found, within this time period, right? Or at the same time, we don't know when that element got loaded on the web page, but that got actually loaded within these 10 seconds. Then how do we actually know, or come to know about the use of this implicit wait? So for that, what we'll do is we'll actually add something to this locator, right? So I just added some junk to this so that there is no element matching with this CSS selector locator, right? Now what happens? As we added implicit wait, so it has to wait to find this element, in our case, which doesn't exist on the web page. It waits for 10 seconds and then it should error out. So let's see that. That's how we'll come to know the implicit wait is actually working. All right. See, it's waiting. So if you observe earlier, if you don't have this implicit wait, right? So let's see here. No such element exception. We can clearly see that. And you can read the whole message here. No such element, unable to locate the element. The method we used is CSS selector, and the locator or the selector which we used has been displayed here. So with this, we are not able to locate the element is what it says clearly, right? And yes, that's what it says. And if you observe, it actually waits for 10 seconds before it has thrown this error. If you don't have this statement written, right, implicit wait, then it would actually return this exception immediately, right? So what happened here was it actually waits for 10 seconds to find the element if it gets loaded on the web page. So it waits for 10 seconds and the element was not found. So it actually returned after 10 seconds. No such element exception. So this is the use of implicit wait, and this is applicable for all the web elements on the web page across the driver instance. So it need not be to only specific to this browser window. It could be any child processes, child windows, or child tabs of this which are spawned by this WebDriver object. So this implicit wait will be applicable for all those processes as well. So this is all about implicit wait. Now let me go back and let's learn about explicit wait. So there is a second type of wait called explicit wait. So explicit wait allows to wait for a condition to occur, and the condition is called until either the timeout of the wait is elapsed or the condition becomes true. So explicit wait, as we have seen, implicit wait had a timeout, right? A maximum timeout. So we'll also be having this timeout in this explicit wait as well. Along with that, we are going to have some condition here. We are going to wait for some condition in explicit wait. And these conditions could be alert is present, presence of element located, whether visibility, if the element's visibility is located, all these type of conditions, we can write it in explicit wait. The main thing here is explicit wait can be used for a specific element, so that we can actually write our own condition using there is a class called expected conditions. So we have some built-in conditions in that expected conditions class. So we can use any of those conditions on a specific web element when we use this explicit wait. Here is the syntax for the explicit wait. You can see, right? So we create an instance of the WebDriver object, and we pass the maximum timeout here, and you can see we use the method called until, and we specify the actual condition inside the until method. So this is how we'll be using the explicit wait. So let us go back and let's actually automate something here. We'll navigate to the same URL. Earlier we read this text, right? All right. Now what we'll do is, here we see a calendar, right? So I wanted to click on some date here. So I'll just click on this fifth month of this in this calendar, and you see a text has been displayed here. So the text has been changed here, and we wanted to capture this text, and we will compare this text according to our expectation, if it is equal to the expectation or not. So this is what we are going to automate it now as part of the explicit wait. So for that, what I'll do is, we are done with this, right? Selected date. This is before, right? Now what we'll do is select. I'll just name this as selected date before. This is before selected date. I'll just say this before selected date, as we wanted to click on some date on the calendar now. So for that, let's go back. I wanted to click on the month on date 5th of this month. Okay, so let's locate this element. And you can see it's an anchor tag, right, with 5, right? So let's go back. Driver dot find element by dot, we'll take XPath here. Okay, let's try what selector sub give us. Okay, let's take this. This is shorter. And we wanted to click on this, right? So let's click on this. And once we click on this, we wanted to capture the modified text, right? The date, whatever selected, will be displayed here, right, in the selected date. So let's actually capture that. For that, I'll actually copy this again. We wanted to capture this, right? So what we'll do is, instead of, okay, this was junk. So let me remove this first. And also, as we are repeating this, it's always better we have this in the locator. So by, this is the selected date, by dot CSS selector. Let's write it like this, so that we can use this selector or this locator wherever we want it. We wanted it here, right? So let's replace this with this variable, this object. We don't need to write this now. Just find element and the locator. In the same way, we'll replace this as well, as we wanted to locate this text, right? Again, so we'll have this, and we'll, after clicking, we'll say that selected date after. All right. So what did we do? We just captured the text on that page first, in the place of this date, selected date. So first it will be nothing. So it says no date selected, and then we are going to click on some date here. You see I clicked on 5th, and then again we are capturing the text here, the modified text, whatever date we have selected, that has to be displayed here. So let's see what will be displayed. And if you see, we didn't add any explicit wait till now. All right. So if you observe, before selected date, no selected dates to display, fine. But after selected day, if you see, it is still no selected dates to display. So what happened? If you observe, when we click on any date here, right? So it is actually spinning. It is taking some time, if you observe, right? It takes some time and it is spinning. But what the script has done, so it got executed, and within that time, so whatever has been on the DOM, right? So whatever has been at this place, that has been selected. So while it is spinning, the value will not be changed, right? So in that was captured, and that was what it displayed here. So what we wanted to do here, we wanted to wait for some time till this spinning or this loading is completed. Once it is done, only then we wanted to capture this. This is what we wanted to do. But how do we do that in Selenium? So in such cases, we use the explicit wait. So explicit wait will be handy in such cases. So what are we going to do? Once we click this, we are going to add the wait time using the explicit wait. WebDriver wait, new WebDriver wait, we'll create the object of it. Driver is the WebDriver object instance. So this is how we can actually create the WebDriver wait object. So just import WebDriver wait from selenium.support.ua package. And if you see, if you observe, this is deprecated, right? So what we need to do is we need to use the class duration dot of seconds. And I will take 10 seconds. For now, I'll just comment this implicit wait, as we wanted to see how explicit wait works, right? New WebDriver wait. WebDriver wait is the object we created. Driver is the WebDriver instance we pass as the first parameter, and the second parameter is the maximum timeout to look for the elements. And this WebDriver object, let's actually capture this into a WebDriver object. And then we'll write the condition here. So explicit wait is all about the conditions, right? We already set the timeout. Now we wanted to set the condition. And for that, we use the method called until. And inside it, we write a condition. And how do you write the condition is, if you see here, there is expected conditions. There is an interface and there is a class. We need to select the class. Expected conditions dot. You see different methods here available in the as which we can use it as the condition. Alert is present, attribute contains, DOM attribute to be, element selection state to be, all these methods. Whatever method we wanted according to our requirement, we can use it. Now what we wanted, the spinning or the loader right here, whatever we have seen here, it is actually spinning for some time. So once it is disappeared, then we can actually capture the text here. So that is what we wanted to achieve. So what we'll do is, there is a method called invisibility of element located. So the meaning of that is, I should not be seeing an element, right? So then till that time, wait. We wanted to wait is what we are specifying here. So usually we use the visibility of element located, which means that the presence of the element located. Once this element is found, then come out, or wait till the element is, that particular element is located. But here, if you observe, I am taking invisibility of element located, meaning I wanted to read or wait until whatever I specify here is invisible, right? So what should be invisible for us? That loader. By dot CSS selector, I'm going to take the class of it. So this is the class of that loader. So this gives us that loader location, or the selection of that loader element. And what we are using, invisibility of element located, meaning once that element is invisible, okay, till that time wait, and the maximum duration is 10 seconds. So once that is invisible, then come out and capture the selected date, is what we added here with these two lines. Now let me execute it. Done. Right now let's go back, and you can see here this time before selected date is no selected date should display, fine. After selected date, if you observe, we got the actual text which has been displayed here. So why did we get this here is we added these two lines of code, which is explicit wait. So we created the WebDriver wait object, and using that we actually called the until method, and inside it we had a condition. We specified that invisibility of the element located. So once the loader, this is the locator of that loader or the spinner, right? So once that is invisible, till that time wait, and once that is invisible, come out, right? And come out, and after that it is actually trying to get the text from the selected date, right? From the selected date, it is actually capturing the text out of it. So that's the reason we got the correct output this time. So this is the use of explicit wait. So you here in the expected conditions, there will be many conditions. You can go through those conditions according to your requirement, right? So this is the main use of explicit wait. And coming to the differences between implicit wait and explicit wait, right? So implicit wait is straightforward. It is applicable for all the elements across the session. But if you see explicit wait, this is applicable for a specific element. And if you observe in the implicit wait, we have no chance to write any condition here, right? So it is the condition is only of locating the elements or the presence of element. If the element is present within the time period, then that's fine, or else it just errors out saying that it's timed out and no such element exception, right? We get the no such element found, right? But in case of explicit wait, we can actually specify a condition, right? So that is the main difference. So we have different conditions that we can specify using the expected conditions class. So this is the second difference. And yeah, these are the main differences we can see out, right? And the polling time of this WebDriver wait or this explicit wait, right? So that is 500 milliseconds or the half a second. How do we actually find that is? We can easily find it out. So what's the polling time is, this wait or the WebDriver wait actually polls for this condition. So it has to check until this condition is either true, right? Or till this time is expired, elapsed, right? So how frequently it has to verify this condition is what we call it as polling the DOM, right? So it is 500 milliseconds for this explicit wait. How do we find that is? So we can do that. So just see visibility of element located and just give some junk here, so that what happens, it has to find out for this web element which doesn't exist in our case, and then it has to error out, right? So let's see that. Okay, so it's actually trying to wait and trying to locate the element which doesn't even exist, right? Done. We are done with 10 seconds. So you can see the exception here, timeout exception, expected condition failed, and you can see the message here, waiting for visibility of the element located by, that's what we wanted to do it, right? In the condition we specified that visibility of the element, waiting for the visibility of element located by using the CSS selector, and this is the locator we used, and it clearly says it tried for 10 seconds. That's the maximum time we specified, and you can see it says with 500 milliseconds interval. This is what we call it as a polling time. So it actually used the polling time of 500 milliseconds, or whatever we call it as half a second, right? And it tried for 10 seconds to find out the element. And once it is not found within this 10 seconds, we got this timeout exception. So, and this 500 milliseconds polling time is the default. So these are the differences between implicit wait and explicit wait. And we should not actually use both implicit wait and explicit wait. So if we go to the documentation of Selenium website and type waits here, read the documentation of waits. If you go through this implicit wait, it's clearly mentioned as a warning here. If you read this, it is clearly mentioned here. Do not mix both implicit and explicit waits. Doing so can cause unpredictable wait times. For example, if you set an implicit wait of 10 seconds and explicit wait of 15 seconds, then that would cause a timeout to occur after 20 seconds, and that would impact your performance, right? So you should be careful when we even if you use most probably we should avoid actually mixing up implicit and explicit weights. Even in case if you wanted to write both, then you should take care. Otherwise it would impact your performance definitely, right? So this is one thing we need to remember. So in this video we started with learning why we need to use the Selenium weights. We learned about implicit wait, and we also learned about explicit wait, and finally we have discussed about the differences between implicit wait and explicit wait. And in the next video we are going to discuss about the third wait in Selenium, fluent wait. Thanks for watching.